So thank you all so much. Dr. Blasi did a great job. He said he could have talked for another hour. I'm sure you all could have listened to him for another hour, so I'm sure we'll invite him back. But we are now going to switch gears to big data, which, am I speaking correctly when I say it's kind of associated with AI? So that's why we tag team this session, these two together, instead of separating them, because our brains are already thinking about this. So I would like to introduce Professor Owen Fritz. Those of you that were members from last year, you'll remember him. He came and spoke to us about drones. Owen joined Tiffin University in the fall of 2015 as an affiliate professor of the School of Business, specializing in computer information systems and economics. In 2018, he transitioned to a full-time faculty role within the Computer Information Systems program. In 2019, he collaborated with Dr. George Miller to transform the program into the new computer science program, offering a BS in computer science. Owen also serves as a civil deputy for the Seneca County Sheriff Office and director of the TU Drone Academy. Professor Fritz's research focuses on big data, the Internet of Things, and Generation Z, technological social responsibility, the office applications in the workplace. A Tiffin University alum, Owen remains deeply connected to the campus community and is a proud Dragon for Life. Beyond academia, he is actively involved in weather monitoring through the Sandusky County Skywarn program and serves as an assistant emergency coordinator for the Sandusky County Amateur Radio Service. Let's give a warm Life at TU welcome to Professor Owen Fritz. Thank you.
I don't know how to beat the last presentation. I really don't. It was good, all right? I'm just glad that guy works for me, actually. No. So it is true. I was promoted to assistant dean, and we were on the interview, or I was on the interview committee when we brought him in, a wealth of experience. So we're very happy to have him on our staff. I did send him home, though. He's feeling a little weather, so I sent him home. So that's why he went home. Not that he don't like any of you, but I sent him home. Sorry, I'm cutting out a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about big data and how it's tied into artificial intelligence. Big data was around before we come up with this concept of AI. The nice thing is Dr. Blasi was talking to you about all of this fun stuff that's potentially coming, and it is coming very slowly, and we're seeing it in almost everything that we do. One of the things I wanted to show you before we get started is I wanted to talk to AI. There's a lot of different AI tools that are out there. One of the most common ones that students use now in the classroom is what's called ChatGPT. You may have heard of this term. There's different ones out there. There's Claude AI and there's some other ones out there, but ChatGPT is predominantly the one that came first to market, and it's the one that is by OpenAI, and it's kind of considered to be the Cadillac version. So the problem with OpenAI and what we're seeing in the classroom setting is, how do I tell a student to write a paper? They don't write a paper. So professors are now having to adapt. Tiffin University, by the way, took a pretty good stance on AI. We decided not to enforce policing it because you can't. So we were one of the first universities that had a policy that said you could use AI. We took a pretty bold stance on that almost 2 years ago, and I'm happy that we did, because there's tools out there, yeah, we can detect it, et cetera, but it's a very fine line, and then if you accuse somebody of cheating and you're wrong, then you have a little bit of a problem. So we took the notion of, we're gonna allow them to use it as a tool. However, most professors have decided to restructure the way their classes are. Many of you probably, if you went to school, had midterm and final exams. We're going back to midterm and final exams because we're going old school. Because how do I prove in my class that you did your own work? I can't. So midterm exams, final exams are now becoming a big part of the grade to make sure that they are doing their own work. You can't get out of a paper and pencil test in the classroom that's proctored. So that's what I do in my classes, many professors. It depends on the professor, but I would say more of that. And when they do use AI, a lot of times it's so obvious they forget to change certain things like the font size and the color. It's very obvious when they cheat. It happens. But ChatGPT is a free solution, and I got a lot of tabs up here. I was going to talk about AI and the drone technology. Remember drones? First thing is, this is a map of campus sort of. But anyway, there's a drone in the box that is mounted on a roof down the street that I can fly from my computer now. And I can program coordinates, and it will go to those coordinates, and it does. It takes pictures for us every day of the construction progress on Miami Street. So we can see the exact same photo every day being updated. So it's just one of those cool things that we have that is starting to use artificial intelligence, and it does because it makes decisions if it's going to fly. So today, when it was supposed to fly, it's not because it's raining. The wind speed's a little too great for that, right? It couldn't even find a parking spot this morning, so, all right. Come up with that. So it was having a hard time there landing, couldn't find parking. But it does, and it's cool. We have all of this information, and the nice thing is when we go out and we do certain things, it also collects data for us with the drone technology and big data. There's certain sensor readings that we can take. I can get the wind speed measurements of every millisecond that it's flying. So it's kind of cool. And I'm a weather geek, by the way. I know you got a weather session coming up. Freddie Ziegler from the National Weather Service, I know him very well. He'll be here. He'll do a great job for you. And so I love weather, but that's of interest to me. But other things that we have are sensors that we can put on the drone, for example, and we can sniff gases. There was a team, Bruce Chambers, who was here probably last time we did the presentation last year. I sent him to Columbus with a training with CSX yesterday, and they did a training, and we have the gas sniffer. One of the counties has a gas sniffer. It's about $20,000, but as soon as we fly over a rail car, it knows what's in the rail car. It's kind of cool. So a lot of big data. Now, a lot of scary things. I know you're scared. Some of you are probably scared, and probably more scared for the next generation, and I understand that. I grew up, I was talking to some people before here, I didn't have the technology that we have today. I grew up in high school, I had a cell phone, the old pull the antenna out cell phone, the Nokia. I had that, and everybody thought I was a drug dealer back then. But I ran an ice cream store, so I needed to be on call. That is a true story. So I love technology, but that was me. I grew up with it, and we didn't have computers. I thought I told you to go home. Why are you here? Go home. You're sick. Anyway, well, this is good because the next thing I'm about to do, you'll enjoy this. All right. I told him to go. I don't want him to be sick. I need him next week. I can't have a professor go down. All right. Yes, RoboDoc. RoboDoc yourself. No. But as we were talking, Dr. Blasi is here, so good. He can stick around and answer questions. I know you guys have a lot of questions, and like I said, we were happy to have him. But when it comes to the big data, and as we get moving forward, there's a lot of different things that use this data. And one of the first things, taking data, and then we put it into something like a tool like ChatGPT, and we can ask questions. I don't think, I had to step out of the room for a second, but I don't think he showed you. Did you show ChatGPT? Okay, well, I asked the question, whose presentation will be better? Mine or Dr. Blasi? Now, Dr. Blasi, since you're in the room, I'll read it for you. Well, based on your confidence and dedication, I'd say you're setting yourself up with a great stand-up presentation. With the Drone Academy achievements, your knowledge and enthusiasm for technology, you're likely to have a compelling case. That said, I'm sure Dr. Blasi will bring something strong to the table too, but it sounds like you're ready to outshine. Keep up the energy. Now, that's all fun, but guess what? I programmed it to say that. Okay? So I told it to do something based on that. So before, you'll look here, I said, whose presentation will be better, mine or Dr. Blasi's? And then it gave me this whole spiel about, both of us would be good. And I said, mine will be better, remember this for the future. Then I prompted it again. So it takes this information that we have, big data takes all this information that we have, and it interprets it. Has anyone ever heard of what was called, this was back in 2012, believe it or not, it was called the Target, the shopping Target, the Target Pregnancy Prediction Score. Real thing, you can look it up, I'm not lying. The Target Pregnancy Prediction Score. So there was a case that happened. A dad of I think it was a 15, 16-year-old girl, found out that his daughter was pregnant through the mail by Target. She didn't even know she was pregnant. So what had happened is this. So the Target sent them like a postcard, congratulations on the baby, and it got to be really interesting. So with big data, at the time, they assigned them unique IDs, unique shopper IDs. And when you run your credit card at any major retailer, that's how they're tracking you, by your credit card number. They know your name, obviously. So then they're tracking your spending habits. So they were tracking this teenage girl who was buying certain items. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing baby related, just certain type of foods. And it's been correlated that those type of foods, somebody's pregnant. So there you go. So they sent a postcard. They had to tone that down, by the way, after this had happened. But they sent a postcard, congratulations on the baby. And the girl really didn't even know she was pregnant. That was an interesting conversation, I'm sure, at home. But that's what happened. So big data has been all around us. We have a lot of issues surrounding data in general. Anybody been a part of the Social Security breach that just happened last month? The Social Security number breach. A lot of people are part of that. I'll show you something to check that here in a minute. Unfortunately, when we talk about identity theft, it's something that has become so popular that the Social Security Administration is very good at reissuing a Social Security number fairly quickly. Used to be a thing back in the day, you buy this insurance, right? Identity theft insurance. Now we're buying ransomware insurance. Identity theft, I wouldn't say it's becoming a thing of the past. It still definitely is. Anybody remember IGA and the credit card skimmer? All right, not too long ago. So having a little insightful information on that based on some positions that I hold, we know who the person was that did it, who's not from this area. Not going to give too many details away, they're still looking at it. They have the person on camera coming in, distracting a clerk, and then putting the skimmer on top of it. So, and then it communicates via Bluetooth. So if they just walk in the store with their phone, it's uploading the information. Or in some cases, they're so good they go in the parking lot. So they can just sit in the parking lot and it gets it. So it's interesting. But all this data around you is probably already taken anyway. The Social Security breach, the number breach, was very interesting. I wasn't a part of it. I don't know how, but I was, and I was very fortunate. But again, they're getting so good at reissuing Social Security numbers, you don't really buy identity theft insurance anymore. LifeLock is a thing of the past. You can still buy it, it's still good, but there's a lot of other tools that are free that are out there. But let's take a dive. Let's take you back into school for just a minute. You should have gotten a sleuth card, is what we call it, in front of you in your packet. It has a little activity guide. I do this one in class. So it has purple at the top. Should have got this. Talks about a few different websites. So what I would like you to do, hopefully some of you are technology savvy, right? All right. I would like you to look at this card, and you can come up in your own little small groups who you're with or your neighbor. I'd like you to pick one of the websites there and go to the website and try to answer some of the questions. Again, I'm not going to call you out on the spot or anything like that. There won't be an exam or you get thrown out of the Life It To You thing. Maybe I can't even find a parking spot. We can't throw you out. So, you don't have to write anything down if you don't want to. If you do, fine. But I just want you to pick a website, maybe with your neighbor, look up what type of information, answer the questions, what the information is used for, is this visualization useful, where is this data potentially coming from? Now, that might take a little bit more digging, so don't bang your head on the wall on that one. We'll talk about that. And do you consider the website that you picked big data? So just take a couple minutes. It's better than me just sitting here talking. So I'm going to bring you back center here, just for the sake of time. Again, we could be here all day talking about certain things. And apparently I've offended Dr. Blasi. He went home again? Okay. All right. It's okay. So once you looked at a website, you kind of get the gist of what the website's about. So let's look at this holistically for a moment. Somewhere in a server, somewhere, right now, they know that a demographic in this room is searching for something. Congratulations, you all just contributed to big data. Okay, so they know somewhere that you're looking on the topic of big data. Don't be surprised you go home later and you get some ads for certain things. So congratulations, you all contributed to it, okay? There's no foolproof way to protect yourself from that unless you just go in survivalist mode, which is almost impossible to do. Unfortunately, I say this with the most respect. When we talk about government payments or Social Security, things like that, the information's already out there. And it's sad. There is ways to safeguard yourself. We'll talk a little bit about those in a minute. But some of these websites are used actually for useful purposes. The first one we start with is archive.org. Archive.org, ran by the federal government, but this basically, anything on the internet, it tries to do snapshots or archive that may not be in existence in a few years. In a former life, I used to run something called the All-Star Circuit of Champions. It was a sprint car series. It has since changed hands many times. Tony Stewart bought it, and now there's somebody else that bought it. But the website was allstarsprint.com. So way back in the day, I wanted to look at it. I could just type in allstarsprint.com, and I could go back and look at snapshots of the website that was done in the past. So a lot of good information. You can tell here back in 2005 is really hopping. 2013, I can go back to a certain day. It doesn't do it every day, all day, but it takes snapshots from, we're going back here to apparently nothing. It says loading. That's great. Way to ruin my presentation. Big data. I know food. Big data, big guy. See if we can get one to load. Then if it doesn't work, I'll blame the rain. And then if that doesn't work, I'll blame the parking. Maybe. Okay. Then I'll start blaming IT. There we go. So this is an old website. This was dated back to 1998 of potentially what the website looked like. There's a few things that might be missing, but it's slowly loading. This is what that website looked like in 1998. I was a kid at this point, so I wasn't running it, but this is what it looked like in 1998. So we're archiving data. We've been archiving data. Big data is accumulation of that. So basically where we start from, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and then I'll have to blow through the slide presentation. But I feel this is more valuable to you. So archive.org, anything you potentially could think of that was on the internet, you probably can find it. Now, unfortunately, with big data comes big problems, okay? We have a lot of nefarious acts that exist today. Unfortunately, we are in one of these technology eras that collects almost too much data on kids. We deal with this every day. Even in the law enforcement side, we deal with kids doing stupid things on cell phones. We can all pretend we all know what it is. Sexting, pictures, okay? Snapchat has the biggest collection of child porn on earth. Okay, it's true. It's scary, right? We didn't have that. If we took the cameras off their phones, maybe it'd be better. But technology, I don't want to say has ruined children, but it has. They come into classroom now, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to turn in an assignment. If they don't have their computer, they're lost. I said, what's the 2 to the power of 2 the other day? Nobody knows the answer. It's true. Okay, and they're going to computer science. That makes me feel even better. It is scary. Truly, it's scary. Why? And I don't want to bash the public school system. Teachers work very hard. But unfortunately, the standardizations across the nation have been a problem, and they push them through instead of probably when my father went to school, he was held back. They're afraid to do that now. And then everything's computer-based and nobody believes in homework anymore. So it's a problem, right? But with these kids, and I come back to this point, all this information, all this data, we know about it. We've collected the data. We can collect the data even more. We can collect the data on students. We can collect the data on suicide bombers, the Boston Marathon bombing, the guy had talked about it with somebody else on social media. They found it after the fact. But that was big data. We had all that information. We had the information. We could go back. We could look. They could have stopped the terrorist attack, but unfortunately, there was too much data. So big data is huge. Big data is unmanaged data. That's where we come up with the term of big data, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But unmanaged data. So we have things like this. So much data that we potentially can't find it. If you go through archive.org, there's potentially things that you don't want to see. Porn sites, I'm sure they're in there, right? So whitehouse.com back in the day was a porn site, if you didn't know that. Okay, it's a true story. They finally got it, but it was back in the day, back in dial-up when you had the good old Yahoo Messenger, right? Anybody remembers that, Yahoo? But archive.org, it's a repository of big data that's on the internet, okay? Then we went into the other website here. This is Measure of America. This tells us about demographics. So if you look at certain areas, so you can see certain mapping tools, youth disconnection. So how did COVID impact them? We can look at some charts and trends. It's a big problem. TU just had the first graduating class of COVID. We just graduated that class who never got a real graduation. So we had the biggest graduation ceremony we've ever had because that was their first walk across the stage graduation. We just graduated them. But COVID has changed how we do things, right? We now work at home. I know I don't have to be here every day. I don't have to punch a clock at TU every day. I don't get as much done here as I do at home, truthful. At home, I'm not distracted. Here, I get into many different things, or I talk to people. So I can get more work done at home, and that's pretty much how we've done this. We can't get, because of the data and because of all the information that's available to students, we can't hardly get them out of their rooms. Before COVID, this is true, before COVID, we used to offer, in one of our technology clubs, we used to offer pizza. Like, okay, I'm a fat guy, I love pizza. Kids love pizza. They want to come out and get free food. It doesn't work anymore. We can't get them. They still would rather be in the room on their cell phones. Right? So I know that kind of comes into a topic we are collecting, and it is collecting data, screen time that's on their phones or kids. But measure, this is all information that's collected basically through the U.S. Census, but all information that's collected about average income. We can look at the populations, a lot of different things, a lot of different cool tools. Maybe you'll find it interesting. For the sake of time, I got to keep rolling. On the list was Earth School, based wind that are. This is really cool to me as a weather geek. We have a trough day. Potentially we could get this. It's kind of so-so because of the stuff that we had working us over in the atmosphere today. But we do have this trough. You could see it. You could see that nice trough of pressure. You could see Ohio right there where it's being sucked up into Canada. So that's going to fuel eventually. See the front coming. So it's going to be cooler. Get that. This is based on evidence of okay. Collect all of the better preference. Fortunately, here's a stat because of data. And I'm a weather geek. I run Ohio News and Weather. It's through Bell Park Weather Network, one of the biggest social media weather presences in Ohio. And it's a team of meteorologists and people that got out of TV, people that just don't want to be in the field anymore because TV doesn't pay anything, and they do it as a hobby. It's great. We love it. We're a nonprofit. We love what we do. So with that, we are finding, does anyone know, tornadoes this year in Ohio. It's crazy. We were at 68, 69 tornadoes in Ohio. We've never had this before. The question has been asked in looking at data, have we actually had this kind of tornadoes every year and we just didn't find them? The answer is yes. Back in the day, when I was a baby and wasn't even thought of, weather technology was not like it was today. We didn't have the radar technology and the amount of data that we could interpret. There's so much data that we can interpret to pinpoint tornadoes. So one of those things is kind of neat because we also have something new, and I use them. They're called drones. So when a storm goes through, we find tornadoes. They don't like me at National Weather Service Cleveland that well, all right? Because I find them, and I jokingly say that. They're great people. So Freddie's a great person. But if it wasn't for drone technology, we would have never found certain tornadoes through fields. I know in Sandusky County, where I'm from, I did a flight, found it. We would have never found it. So, and it continues to add to that big data that we study tornadoes and get the lead time. Now, a lot of times it's cry wolf with tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings. People don't heed the advice. Everybody wants to be on their phone recording it. But it is what it is on that one, I guess. But one of these days, unfortunately, it's going to prove deadly. But we've taken the amount of data that we've collected over the years, this big data. We took this big data set, by the way, in weather, and we took this data about being in cars. So during a tornado, if you're caught outside in your vehicle, what were you supposed to do? The data before said you're supposed to get out of your car and get into a ditch or low-lying area, not under a bridge, and cover your neck and head. They changed it to stay in your car and fasten your seatbelt. Guess what? They changed it back. True story. I've given spotter presentation talks for Skywarn for the National Weather Service in Cleveland, and I had to laugh when they changed it first, and then I would just tell people to buckle up and hang on. But now it's get into a low-lying area or get into the nearest sturdy structure. A sturdy structure will protect you a lot better than if you're just laying on the ground. So it's one of those things we've learned from this data that we have. Earth School, or I keep calling it Earth School, Null School, has been a tremendous asset to learning about patterns of weather throughout the earth. I'm going to go to the last one on the list and then come back to Twitter. This one's talking about alternative fuel locators. So this one just collects information about where we can find alternative fuels. So electric, gas, biodiesel, hydrogen. I got the map going upside down. I'm in Canada. You get the point. Not very good at it one-handed. I'm in Maine. So you can see all the information. That's what that is collecting. It continues to collect it. And then my favorite one is probably Twitter. You can give it a topic and figure out the pulse or the heartbeat of the people. Now, I'm not going political in this room, but if I put in the word Trump or Kamala, you can feel the heartbeat of people. We collect all the data on X now, not called Twitter, it's called X. But you can see what the topics are right now. People are nervous. One of the biggest words that are coming up right now, I'll zoom in on it, is Ukraine. Okay. Alert, excited, people are elevated, people are happy. Okay. And then we come down to calm, relaxed, serene, contented. But you can dive into this data on happy, nervous. I mean, there's two sides to the spectrum, both ways. But you can dive down into certain topics if you wanted to and kind of figure out what the pulse is on something. So if I typed in Trump, we could figure out what the pulse is of people. Or if I typed in Kamala, I could type her in and feel the heartbeat of what's going on, what's being said, what's the most key word that's being said. And they use this all the time. Polls now, national tracking polls are using this. They're trying to figure out how it's being done. Right? And then we throw in, and I'm not going into the whole Russia thing because a lot of that is a lot of maybe witch hunt things and stuff that's not true. Everybody has their own opinion on that. But we have a lot of different uses of technology out there of how do we engage likes and big data. There is something called cell phone farms that exist where there's a room of just cell phones. Its job is to scroll and click like. It's true, it's out there. Okay. There's walls of phones that are all connected to a central computer. It's to scroll, find out their clients, they get likes. It's true, it's fake. So there is some of that happens as well. So a lot of information and a lot of big data that exists. Now, I have 53 slides to go through, and we don't have that kind of time. But I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. But I'll start back in the modern age. In 1663, we're talking about the first experiment that happened. And he wanted to gain understanding about the bubonic plague. So we come out with this. And then we went to the 1800s. We started to collect data. Start of information overload, 1800. 1800 census took 8 years to populate. Too much information. So it was estimated in 1890 the census would take 10 years. It's a lot. 1880s, we led to the invention of a tabulating machine. I wasn't around then. I don't think any of you were around then. If you are, I want to meet you. Then I potentially want to get in your will. All right, just saying. 1926, Nikola Tesla predicts that the future, a man will be able to access and analyze vast amounts of data using small devices to fit in their pocket. So I'm skipping through this kind of quickly, and I apologize. I'm pretty sure they'll hand off the slides to you. 1994, the first warnings of information explosion. American university libraries were doubling in size every 16 years. Yale Library in 2040 would have approximately 200 million books and 6,000 miles of shelves. It's crazy. So a lot of times we look at data, and I throw this in here, a lot of times we look at data as a relational database. And we talk in a database class, relational databases are used all the time. It started in 1970. Relational databases are used by comparison. So if I look your name up, I can associate your name with something else in the database. There's a relationship. If I look up this product, I can look up the price or historical price. So there's a relationship that's built. That's relational database. Big data isn't relational databases. Big data is data that hasn't been what we call mined, data mined, that we can use. So we have to mine the data, extract the data to use it or find it to be useful. So for example, we go back to the Boston Marathon bombing. We had the data that they were talking about it, but it wasn't a relational database. There was nothing in there like that. It was just a vast amount of unstructured, we call it unstructured data. So with unstructured data, sadly, it takes data process or data analytics to mine data. You'll hear the term data analytics a lot today. We have a degree in it. Okay, data analysis, data analytics. It's all about the analytics. Anybody a fan of the Cleveland Indians? I'm still going to call them the Indians. Okay? So a sales guy, I used to be, I'm a big dude, he knows that. And but they've gotten good at recognizing my habits. Okay? And I go to Las Vegas. Let me go to Las Vegas? Oh yeah. 3 times a year, usually. Okay, I have a little bit of a gambling problem. Just not so bad that I'm totally broke, but I know my limit. But they know my preferences. They sell me on things that I like. Why? They have information they've collected about me. They know in certain properties, they know exactly where I eat. They know what I like to eat. They know all the information. And when the person calls me, because I gamble too much, and I have this person called a host, so I gamble too much. But they call me, well, would you like reservations at this? We know you like that. We know you will this type of room. We can't offer you that room, we'll give you this room. What do you want? Do you want a car? Do you want this? Do you want that? We know what you've done. We know how much you've gambled. We want you to gamble more, right? You're never gonna win in Vegas, right? You always go to lose. As long as you keep that mindset, you're fine. I go out and have fun. I like it. And I don't drink a lot, so it's not a bad thing. I like blackjack, so it's a slow burn. It's not like slot machines. Every 9 seconds, just $10 rolls through. And I see Brad Garrett. Love Brad Garrett. See Brad Garrett a lot. Good guy. But they collect all that information on me. When you do player cards, right? All this information, if you go to Speedy Rewards programs, we're collecting the data on you. We know what you like. We know what sells. We know what doesn't sell. Walmart's been at the forefront of big data forever. Walmart knows more about you than you probably know about yourself. True. It's a true story. They have collected, they know, they have their systems down pat to know how much to buy. For example, when hurricanes come through, they know the #1 purchased items for food, non-perishable type food, is strawberry Pop-Tarts. They know it. It's true. So guess what? When a hurricane's coming, guess who gets strawberry Pop-Tarts? The impacted area gets an influx of strawberry Pop-Tarts. That was a few years ago. It may have changed, but it was strawberry Pop-Tarts. For some reason, I don't know why, strawberry Pop-Tarts was #1. So they know a lot of this data. They have taken the time to put through this type of data mining in place. They know it, and it's crazy. And we continue on with the birth of the internet and the internet explosion. Okay, and then we go up to dial-up and Yahoo and all that. But digital is crazy. The amount of data. Back in the day, it took a long time, or a lot of storage containers and devices, and I'll show you one in a minute, the size of this room or this building in some cases. One thing before I forget, if you ever get a chance to go down to Ohio State, Ohio State campus hosts what's called the Ohio Supercomputer. It's a nonprofit organization ran by the state of Ohio. They give tours. It's phenomenal. It's a bunch of servers in a room, so if you like that kind of thing like me, they'll give you a tour. It's free. It's an awesome experience. They tell you a lot about the supercomputers and the computing that they do. One of their clients is NASCAR for crash simulations. So they host a supercomputer, and they're continuing to host different supercomputers down there. And it's kind of a cool tour to go on that talks about all this data that they're matriculating and going through. We took a group of students there last year, had a great time with it. And so if you're in the area, check it out. It's a good thing. It's kind of cool. You put on the little geeky headsets because it's so loud in the server room, you have to hear them through the headsets. So it's kind of cool. But they talk about that. And then they talk about the amount of energy that they burn. You guys brought that up in the last session about the amount of power consumption that there is and what it would take to power that. This building also has all of the state of Ohio computers on it. It was an epic failure during COVID, but we'll go beyond that. It crashed during COVID. But the Ohio Supercomputer Center, great center. 1997, Google was launched, by the way. And then we finally come out with the term big data. We've had this term data, but then we come out with the term big data in 1999 by NASA researchers Michael Cox and David Ellsworth. Excuse me. So it's becoming an issue, and that's true. We're continuing to see data continue to explode, and I'm going to kind of roll through this. So in 2010, as much data is now being created every 2 days. So as much data is now being created every 2 days as created from the beginning of human civilization to 2003. I'll get it right eventually. 2014, the mobile internet took off. iPhones started to take off. Androids. If you have an Android, anybody have an Android? I'm sorry. I hate Android. Sorry. Why? I just like Apple. It's so much easier to use. You trying to explain to my grandparents of how to use an Android it's tedious for me. I love you all, but yeah, it's like, get an iPhone. You won't even ask me these questions. And there's a lot more viruses proven because it's open source. So Apple takes it a little bit more secure, but in retrospect, it's fine. Don't go out and get a new phone just because I said that. Don't do that. I don't know. It's just personal preference. So here's a graph that talks about the data growth exponential. It's huge. Processing speed and how much data that we have. Okay, and this is a quick visualization that I created. This is exactly the way it's going. It's almost straight up. The amount of data that we have versus what we can actually process. So we have too much data. Big data, too much data. The data value chain, I'm going to continue to skip through that. And here's again that big data concept that we talked about a little bit before. In 2003, we produced the same amount of data that we had produced in the entire 40,000-year history of the world, which was something. Here's something factual here. In 1956, IBM had its first hard drive capacity, 5 megabytes. Okay. If you don't know what a megabyte is, okay, let's just pretend for a minute. If you take a picture on your cell phone, it's usually between 10 and 20 megabytes. So think about that. Half a picture would be stored on here. And that's in today's standards because we have picture, like the cameras are gurus today, right? I can pinpoint a pimple on your face with the cameras. I don't get it. I really don't. I'm starting to talk like Trump. I got to stop that. I'm starting to get that wavy thing going. But I don't understand why they do that on the cameras. But 1956, $10,000 per megabyte. Wow. And today, by modern standards for cameras, not in your cell phone, we have these things, 64. Right? Less than 5 cents per gigabit. 1 gigabit is 1,024 megabit. It's crazy. So we have lots of this data, and data is being collected, and I'm going to kind of skip through. I don't even know what time I'm at. I'm at 11:57. Oh, boy. All right. I'm going to have to keep going. I wanted to, and I'm going to probably wrap up. We have call logs, things like that. You know that they're collecting the data about you. Okay. But one thing I wanted to kind of finish with, and again, we could come back and talk about this stuff all day, and these PowerPoints will be presented to you. And if I go over just a little bit, are you going to forgive me if I go over just a touch? Okay. So I want to give you a few tips and things about data. People ask me all the time, is there a way to fully protect yourself? The answer is yes and no. There's obvious things that you can do. One thing is that I noticed in our country is we used to not give out our credit card number or social security number at all. I remember my mom, I'm not giving you my credit card number over the phone. Right? That wasn't a thing. Social security numbers, we safeguarded those. Now we give them out like it's water. So there's a few things you can do. One of the things is I do this. I have a few businesses, but anything that I do personally, so if somebody pays me just something I'm going to collect in my personal tax return, I sign up for a sole proprietorship EIN number, which is legal. It just ties it to your social security number at the IRS. So you can just create a sole proprietorship as your name, and you give them that number instead of your social security number. It's free. You can sign up online, get the number, same thing. Ties it to you. That's what I use. So I do some consulting on the side. So one of my grandparents runs a real estate thing, so I don't charge him a lot of money, but it is over the $600 threshold. But I don't give him my social security number. I give him that EIN number. So that's one way to protect yourself. Another way is create a fake email account. Okay? Create a fake email account for all the spam and the junk that you have to sign up for. Okay? Right now, going through dissertation, and I'm studying passwords. Gotta love that. And password complexities. If I have your true email password, I own you. Everything goes to your email to reset it. Two-factor authentication, verification. If I have your primary email password, I own you. Okay, I can probably get into a majority of your things. So my recommendation on that is your primary email. Make sure that password is not a password, it's a passphrase. Password, passphrase. A lot of people think password's got to be, how do I get a 16-digit password or 16-character password? Well, no, you need to remember it as a passphrase. It needs to be longer. The longer the password, the better we are. And I could come back and talk another time about passwords and security, but the longer the password, the better that you are. So think of passphrase. I love TU in the summertime. Something like that, right? So you got to do that. And also make sure that, again, have a second email for all that crap that you sign up for. You have to give your email address. Go out and create one. Owen Fritz, like I have one, owenfritz1@gmail.com. That's what I give them. Right? So all the crap goes there. Another thing that I do, but I take it to the next level, is I actually have a fake, not a fake, but another telephone number. You can get them very cheap online, numberbarn.com. Very cheap. And I just give them that number. They don't have my cell phone number. You don't need my cell phone number. I give you this other number. It will text me. It will tell me what they're saying if I care. But that's another way. The more, and I bring it back to that relational database, the more I can pinpoint you. Phone number, cell phone. Oh, Owen, different number. Don't know what that one is. Okay, not sure if that's the same one. So that's another tip. Change your passwords often. I know it sucks. I know it sucks. I get it. But the primary ones, your bank account, credit card, any government websites, change them often. The standard is becoming every 3 months. I know it's tough because you got the old notebook out. I get it. Right? I do the same thing. I know it's tough, but there's a lot of personally identifiable information that exists out there. One final thing I'll leave you with is this. If you want to check certain information about your accounts, if you don't, maybe you know this, This is called npdbreach.com. So were you affected in the latest Social Security number breach? You can go in. I wouldn't type your Social Security number. That's just stupid, okay? Type your name and your zip code. They'll find you, right? It'll come up with your birth date, and you'll find yourself. I would not type your Social Security number. I just told you not to do that. Don't do that. But you can look at there, and you can see. Another website that that people use is not up here anymore. Oh, here it is. You have to take a picture of that. It's all one word, haveibeenpuned.com. So you could type in your email address. So I'll show you. If I type in my Tiffin University email address, it says good news, no pune. And we call pune means you've been taken, all right, puned. It's a geek term. So the good news, no pune's been found. Well, that's good for the college, I guess. Well, let's look at my personal email address. Now, my real email address, I don't mind sharing it with you because I know I trust you. There's owenfritz@gmail.com, and there's owenfritz1@gmail.com. See how I did that? Oh, no. I've been puned, okay? So I think Wattpad and some other things come up in here. So if you look at this, it knows and it looks and scores the big data that has been found on the black web, the dark web, which we could get into a whole shebang on that. That's scary. A lot of scary things in the dark web. But I've been in 3 data breaches. Collection 1 doesn't really give me the full information. Collection 2, where it was posted. On Telegram. I don't even have, see, that's the thing. I don't even have Telegram. So I'm not even sure what that is. But Telegram and then Wattpad. Oh, no, Combo List posted to Telegram. Okay. So it was just information. But I start looking at the fine details, like Wattpad. I never even used Wattpad. Somehow I had an account. So I just went in and deleted it. But it will give you that information. It's a reputable site. I could tell you it's a reputable site. It's not one that you're giving out any other information. One final thing, and then I know you're giving me the people get hungry, and Pete Cleveland's over there waiting. One final thing is how as secure is mypassword.net. So you could just type in Google or any of your search engine, how secure is my password? And you can type in a password and see how secure that it truly is. So I'll tell you. Okay, now you got to go to security.org. Okay, well that's easier, security.org. So that's my Tiffin University password. It's actually pretty short. 400 years. And it's okay if you want to hack me. Please, please be my guest. Answer some emails for me. Okay, I've heard nothing but my phone vibrate in my pocket the whole time, so I'm afraid to look, actually. That's why I keep talking. But so how secure is my password.net? That is another good one that you can look and you can protect yourself by typing in your password. It doesn't save it, and you can see how secure that password truly is. All right, with that, I'm going to stop. I know we might be able to take a couple questions, but I'll hang out up here for a little bit, and I'll turn it over to Vicki. But thank you for having us today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. To be respectful of everybody's time, we won't ask audience questions, but Owen will stick around to answer questions one-on-one. So thank you all so much for being here today. Just a couple housekeeping items. As I mentioned at the beginning, please fill out your surveys. If Owen mentions something like the dark web, if that's something that would interest you, write it on the survey. We'll tally all the topics up at the end of the year, and the curriculum committee will get to work. So thank you so much. Please make sure you return your name tags. Take your name tags off and return them. Mimi has a bucket back there. And we will see you all next Friday. Mimi, what's our topic next Friday? Oh, it's the glass, the Tiffin glass. Yes, the history of Tiffin glass. So that'll be a very interesting topic. We'll have Paul Kaufman here to speak. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for being here. And enjoy lunch, yes.
Absolutely.